On the night of July 16, 1918, a squad of Bolshevik secret police checker led by Yurovsky executed Russia's last emperor, Nicholas II, along with his wife Alexandra, their son Alexei, and their 4 daughters Olga, Tatiana, Maria, and Anastasia. The downfall of Nicholas II, the last emperor of Russia, is a complex narrative that spans several decades and encompasses a myriad of interconnected factors, events, and societal transformations. To delve into the extensive tapestry of his reign and eventual demise, we must journey through the annals of Russian history, exploring the political, social, economic, and cultural dynamics that shaped his era. Nicholas II ascended to the Russian throne in 1894. Following the death of his father, Alexander III, he inherited an autocratic system of government deeply entrenched in Russian society, where the Tsar's authority was supreme. However, despite the outward stability of the Russian Empire, profound challenges loomed on the horizon. Russia was grappling with rapid industrialization, socio-economic disparities, and simmering political unrest among various segments of society. One of the earliest and most significant challenges faced by Nicholas II was the Russo-Japanese War of 1904 to 1905. This conflict, fought over territorial ambitions in East Asia, particularly in Korea and Manchuria, ended disastrously for Russia with a series of military defeats, culminating in the Battle of Tsushima. The war revealed the technological and logistical weaknesses of the Russian military and dealt a severe blow to the prestige of the Tsarist regime. The year 1905 witnessed a seismic shift in Russian society with the eruption of widespread unrest and revolutionary fervor. The catalyst for this upheaval was the infamous Bloody Sunday massacre of January 9, 1905, when peaceful demonstrators, led by Father Georgy Gapin, were gunned down by the Imperial Guard while marching to the Winter Palace to present a petition to the Tsar. This event ignited a wave of strikes, protests, and peasant uprisings across the empire, collectively known as the Revolution of 1905. In response to mounting pressure, Nicholas II reluctantly issued the October Manifesto, promising political reforms, civil liberties, and the establishment of a legislative assembly, the State Duma, in an attempt to quell the unrest. Despite the concessions made in the October Manifesto, the Tsarist regime struggled to enact meaningful reforms. The subsequent Duma, though ostensibly representative bodies, were hampered by the Tsar's reluctance to share power and the manipulations of conservative elements within the government. Efforts to modernize and liberalize Russian society were stymied by entrenched bureaucratic inertia, reactionary opposition, and Nicholas II's own ambivalence towards reform. The political landscape remained fraught with tension and dissatisfaction, exacerbated by economic disparities, agrarian unrest, and ethnic tensions within the multi-ethnic empire. The outbreak of World War I in 1914 plunged Russia into a cataclysmic conflict that would profoundly impact the course of its history. Initially greeted with patriotic fervor and nationalist enthusiasm, the war soon revealed the structural weaknesses and inefficiencies of the Russian state. The strain of total war exacerbated existing socio-economic hardships, exacerbated by food shortages, inflation, and industrial dislocation. Military setbacks and casualties further eroded public confidence in the government and fueled calls for reform and change. The cumulative impact of wartime hardships, governmental incompetence, and popular discontent reached a breaking point in February 1917. Spontaneous strikes, demonstrations, and mutinies erupted in Petrograd, formerly St. Petersburg, precipitating the collapse of the Tsarist regime. Faced with mounting pressure and the loss of support from key constituencies, including the military and the aristocracy, Nicholas II abdicated the throne on March 15, 1917, marking the end of centuries of Romanov rule. The provisional government, led by liberal and moderate forces, assumed power with the aim of steering Russia towards a democratic future. The period following Nicholas II's abdication was marked by a tumultuous struggle for power and authority between the provisional government and various revolutionary factions, most notably the Bolsheviks led by Vladimir Lenin. This phase of dual power witnessed a fragile balance between the provisional government and the Petrograd Soviet, a council representing workers and soldiers. Despite initial hopes for democratic reform, the provisional government faltered in its attempts to address the pressing issues facing the country, including the war, land redistribution, and bread shortages. The Bolsheviks capitalized on popular discontent and disillusionment with the provisional government's perceived failures, ultimately seizing power in the October Revolution of 1917 and establishing Soviet rule. The Bolshevik seizure of power marked the beginning of a new chapter in Russian history, characterized by the establishment of a communist regime and the eventual dissolution of the Russian Empire. In July 1918, Nicholas II, along with his family, was detained by the Bolshevik authorities and held under house arrest, amid fears of their rescue by anti-Bolshevik forces advancing towards Ekaterinburg. The decision was made to execute the imperial family on the night of July 16th to 17th, 1918, bringing an ignominious end to the Romanov dynasty and symbolizing the demise of Tsarist Russia. The downfall of Nicholas II was not merely the result of individual failings or isolated events, but the culmination of deep-seated structural weaknesses, societal tensions, and historical forces that had been at play for decades. His reign and eventual demise serve as a poignant reflection of the complexities and contradictions of Russian history, leaving an indelible mark on the course of the 20th century and beyond.